All right, I'm going to introduce Chris Langan, head coach for Felician University. How you been, man? And I know you got three girls, so you're like the poster guy for dad girls. So how they doing?
Appreciate it. First and foremost, thank you guys for having me. The girls are doing well, hanging in there during this tough times, just like obviously your little guy. Um, it's been great. Obviously for me, I feel like a lot of people have overlooked family. So this is great family time for me. We're enjoying that. And virtual school brought me back to my roots of being a teacher. So I kind of missed it. So
That's
enjoying
awesome. That's awesome. And before we get started with these questions, because Fungo Talk was pretty much for the kids out there to get a lot of information from these college guys like yourself. So, but I did do my research on you, and I saw 16 years at the helm for the Golden Falcons. And, I mean, it's quite the resume. All-time wins leader for the coach, four-time conference coach of the year. And this is in the past 4 years as well, right? From 2016 to 2019, you've been awarded that. Two-time conference champs, four-time NCAA tournament appearances, 22 guys to pro contracts, 5 MLB draft selections, 6 All-Americans, 3 academic All-Americans. I mean, it's awesome to see from your program. And I want to know, before we get into these questions, what's the secret that keeps taking the program of Felician to the next level?
I think for anything that has success, it's always built with a foundation, and you're only as good as the people around you. I've been very, very lucky to have, obviously, your co-host, Matt Murata, by my side for a really long time, Mike Mobbs, obviously my brother, Dustin Javins, a lot of guys have played a big part. It gets easier when you have guys that share the same, vision and goals as you had and have. And I think the message was always pretty clear to our guys that we really cared. I think we kept it nice and loose. And I think the guys appreciated just us being real, as opposed to a lot of other guys are trying to sell people on gimmicks. I think we were just real. We're honest. We were real. We opened the door. They were able to communicate. We communicated with them. And we just kept it fun. And I think that's really the biggest secret to anything. Keep it fun.
Yeah. I think that's a great part about this show, too. We get to know these coaches on a different level that people get to see. And I mean, the information now that these guys give, we were talking to Corey from Maryland last week, and he was talking about the same thing. It's just how much of an impact that the other coaches had on his coaching style. And I couldn't agree more, having the right staff and that chemistry. And I'll let Matty even talk about it more, because he had firsthand, was part of your staff. So I'll let Matty talk about that as well.
Yeah, I think the really great part about Chris is, although he could turn on a switch and be that baseball coach, he could also turn on that switch and be a father, a mentor to the players. So I think there's no real secret to college coaching. I think you got to push them. You got to push them a ton. And you got to love them. At the end of the day, he treats every guy the same, 1 through 40. And that's how you have to be as a head coach, because there's so many teaching lessons in college baseball. It's not just the games, all right, the stats, am I playing? I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, and I think Chris Langan really showed me in my first few years of coaching how to deal with different personalities, how to get a guy to get motivated, even if he's not a rah-rah guy. So I think there's a lot of different personalities, and I think the best head coaches really just know how to manage it. And I think that's something that Chris really did a great job of, as well as kind of changing the mentality as well. He had really, really good teams. And I remember the first year we won the CAC championship, he had got the guys up and kind of challenged them. And that group was a tough senior group that, they wanted to win. They wanted to put up the first banner in that school. And, I think we kind of allowed them to be themselves. We loved them. We coached them, and we pushed them. And, honestly, we were a family. And I think that was something we spoke a ton about at Felician, was family, family, family. Like, we weren't afraid to say family. Like, yes, different teams and different college baseball, maybe that's not something they say, but, for us, it was a unity. Matt, it. You're on the bus for 10 hours. Chris, how many fun bus trips did we have on this 5-6 year span?
Some of the best memories were always on the bus.
That's awesome. And that takes us to our first question, family. You talk about this Golden Falcons family. how special was it to have one of your players, Jerry Vasto, make it to the show? And if Wikipedia serves me right, it shows you were the only school that offered him a baseball scholarship, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry obviously is a special individual, was a super, super talented kid. Yeah, and he fell through a crack because he was a small school guy, much like myself, of a short conference player. So obviously the word always on short conference kids where they were tough, blue collar grinder kind of players. And Jerry went to Henry Hudson High School, which most people don't even know about or know where it is. I want to say like their high school baseball teams probably was more than half of the total enrollment at the school. So it's that type of an environment. Jerry just was, a workaholic. I mean, he worked his butt off. He got better every year. He challenged himself. He did a lot of his own research too. But it was obviously a great moment, and I remember exactly where I was when the call happened. I was standing in my kitchen coming back from Danny Nafe's graduation party, who just happened to graduate a couple years ago, and it was definitely June 10th. Won't forget it, 2018. And he just basically said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Jared, it's 12:30 at night. What do you mean? What am I doing?" So, well, you asked me to give you a call when I made it to the major leagues, and I was like speechless. I think I almost dropped the phone, and I was just like in awe. I was like, "Wow!" And then he told me, "Next coming days, I'm going to be in Philadelphia. You guys better be there. Please tell everybody because it's late. I got a lot of phone calls to make." I was just special. I mean, obviously, seeing a guy that you've got a chance to coach and help form a little bit, become one of the best 1,300 players in the world. I mean, that's surreal. Pretty surreal.
That's pretty awesome. And what characteristics stood out when he took the mound that made him special?
He was very tough. He's very, no moment was too big for Jerry. He wanted all the big moments. He wanted to make all the big pitches. And he just was, eventually became a perfectionist. He always tried to, keep on, adding to his slider and then, working more on location and movement, which obviously I think Matt had a lot to do with, before these guys got here, before Matt got there, and then we actually had Arlen Freeman, who's a head coach now too as well. That's kind of the guys who helped really kind of mold Jerry. When he first got to Felician, he'll tell you in his own admission, couldn't throw a lot of strikes, had really no clue about mechanics. Everything was like in one speed, and it was just fast, real fast. And obviously those guys started to tweak him a little bit. I remember a funny story he tells a lot, and this was me, who I'm not a pitching guy. I know Matt Murata's maybe into one now. I'm standing in the bullpen with him, and I said, "All right, Jared, you just were throwing a no-hitter from 5 innings. You had 13 walks, and we had like 11 strikeouts. I got to take you out of the game because you're throwing 140 pitches. Like, what's going on?" I said, "Let's work on just throwing a four-seam fastball and locating." So now he throws the baseball, and I'm looking at the ball coming out of his hand. I'm like, "Jared, I said a four-seamer. What is that?" So he walks over to me and goes, "Well, this is it." And I said, "The way he gripped the baseball, I've never seen in my life." And I shook my head. I said, "Oh my God, is this what the problem is?" "All right, Jared, here's what a four-seamer looks like." I put the ball in his hand, put his hand on the ball. He throws the next 20 pitches right on spot. And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." So this kid's been in the program for almost a year and a half, doesn't know how to throw a four-seam fastball. And really from there, he took off. I mean, he did. And he just was a special kid. And he enjoyed every moment. He enjoyed every opportunity. And, he loves telling the story. Another quick story. I know I'm going to kill a lot of your time with this, but
no, not at all. Not at all.
He would call me from a locker room surrounded by LSU, Georgia players, and all these guys, and they're like, "Where the hell did you go to school?" "Felician." "What's that? And where's that?" And obviously, the funny story now is, now he's surpassed and bypassed all these guys, and makes it to the big leagues, and really kind of obviously gives Felician that big stamp, and just funny because we obviously have this conversation all the time about people used to call it Pelican and Felican and a bunch of different names. So Jerry's certainly now giving us more of a name brand recognition.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Matt, you want to add on to that since you had a little bit of Jerry as well during your time over there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Chris summed it up perfectly. Jerry was a kid that he recruited. He was raw, more of a position player that he kind of turned into a pitcher and was just hungry to learn. That was the best way to describe Jerry. He was hungry to learn, and he was super competitive. Like Chris said, he was a perfectionist. It wasn't just him spinning breaking ball or throwing changeup. He wanted to throw high percentage changeups that start in the zone, get out, changeup for a strike. So, I think that mentality, his work ethic is a big reason why he wound up in the big leagues. One of my favorite things about Jerry was he was able to be two different people And a lot of people can't really find that balance. I mean, he was just the best guy in the world on the bench, a mentor to his teammates, but when the lights came on, you saw that switch, and all the good competitors have it. I know Skip's had it. We've coached a lot of games together. So I think the competitiveness, mixed with the willingness to learn, and he put himself in a great position to succeed. And I think, what people don't really realize is Chris does such a good job with the college placement leagues where, he might get a kid in the Valley League instead of him playing more locally, and now he's ready to make the next jump to the NECBL next year. So, I think what he does a really good job of is making sure his guys are placed and they're playing competitive baseball in the summer, so they're then ready to roll right into the fall.
That's awesome. And I'm going to touch on both of what you guys said. I think it's so true what Maddie said of having that dual personality of when you could flip the switch, because one of my favorites in Clayton Kershaw, probably the nicest guy off the field, but you talk about a competitor showing emotion on the field. Right. I think that's fantastic. And Maddie also brought up a good point of kind of when he's talking about hitting his spots. And when we talked to all these coaches, intent was the one word that stood out. Like when people lock in and really focus and have intent to like not just get on the mound and throw, but actually try and challenge himself. Hey, I'm going to try and hit this spot 3 times or this spot, right? I think it's a not just a batter battle, but a pitch by pitch battle as well. Instead of just trying to get the guy out, it's, hey, I want to hit that spot every time and try and be perfect. I thought that was great. And to touch on what Chris said about Felician or whatever school and the LSU guys, we just had Timothy Castro on the show talk about Ithaca, a Division III school. And listen, the school doesn't matter. It's the individual, it's the self-drive, and it's just how much do you want to put into this game to make it. I think so many guys fall in love with I need to go D1 to get here, when it's I couldn't agree more, where you need to go to a school that fits you and they want you to be part of that legacy to do something there. And that brings me to my next question that we have. Why choose a Division II school over a D1 or a D3?
Well, I think, in our world, especially in this area of the conference, just like, obviously you played at Stack, you're choosing a D2 because I think it's more of a personal fit. It's a smaller setting. You're going to get a lot more individualized attention in the classroom especially. And, then on the field, I believe, you're just getting that opportunity earlier to get on the field and make an impact and grow and develop. I mean, Division II baseball in the Northeast region I think it's yielded just as many draft picks as some of the major conferences. So, I mean, and when you add up all the numbers, those numbers and those conferences fit, like an SEC and ACC. So I think it's more about a personal touch, and these guys just get a lot more attention that they just wouldn't have gotten before. And I think, too, the scholarship structure, certainly helped, where we were able to give some more money and kind of stack scholarships and things of that nature. There was always some type of an institutional aid that kind of helped bridge a gap, where I don't think Division I can get away with.
I could agree more.
Division III obviously doesn't offer money. I mean, but again, a lot of great Division III baseball programs. I mean, again, I don't even like to – when I talk about recruiting to these kids and people, I don't even like to talk about Division I, II, or III. I hit on exactly what you touched before about fit, and make sure it's a fit for you personally on every level. Socially, the academic part, and certainly the athletic. And do your homework, do your research. Pay attention to where the coach stands in his career. Does it look like he's a guy who's going to move and jump, or is he somebody who's probably going to, lay down and say, hey, here, this is where I'm going to be for a while, until I develop this program. Look at a lot of those different things and those different aspects. And then, again, think about average class sizes, because I can tell you right now, my first experience in college after going to a small high school, I walked into a class of 500 kids where my high school had 500 students. I was shocked. And I knew academically, I mean, baseball-wise, I thought it was the great fit. I went to the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, out of high school. I thought it was the greatest fit. And then I got there academically, and I was like, I'm never going to make it here. I was always an academic person who needed more of a hand-holding and the teacher to know who I was. I was never going to make it with a professor's assistant and, even another assistant. It just wasn't going to work for me. So I just think that fit is huge. And, again, I think Division II across the board really offers that.
No doubt. I want Maddie to touch on that too, because Maddie was a guy that went to a Division I school and transfer. And Matt, I want to hear your side as well.
Yeah, I mean, as far as it goes for my story, that was the first year where they kind of put that rule in place where, you know, if you were at a Division I, you couldn't go D1 to D1. You couldn't go laterally without sitting. You know, and at that point in my life, that was everything to me. You know, even out of high school, it was, you know, getting the first call on July 1st, you know, the first day that they can contact you. So I think the more I've seen it, the more I've been involved in it. You know, I wish I would have gave, you know, Division II a better shake out of high school. I think we get so caught up in, you know, Division I, but, you know, as you saw for that 5-year run, I mean, we had more draft picks than, you know, a lot of the Division I schools in the Northeast. You know, and I think a big reason for that is the ability to let a kid develop as a junior. You know, let a Jerry Basto, who's a junior lefty, develop instead of, you know, all these D1s trying to get ahead of each other in this recruiting curve, you know, and recruiting freshmen, you know, 8th graders, sophomores to verbal. So I think the big thing with Division II and Division III is you kind of go through that natural process of letting the body grow. You know, so we're able to get guys a little bit later just because those guys are actively recruiting. But, you know, as far as a fit standpoint, I thought I love the smaller class sizes. Like, I love the professors knowing my name. I thought, you know, for me, it was the perfect fit. I chose a bigger school, a technology school out of high school. And for me, once I got there, once I met the baseball team and, you know, really met the professors and teachers, you know, I really fell in love with that environment. So I think too many kids have these labels in their head from, you know, 12 or 13 years old. And the best advice that I could give is just go see a school, have an open mind, you know, and Chris and I have told a ton of recruits that have been in front of us, like, hey, when you're on campus, you're going to know. And, you know, a lot of kids said yes that day because they fell in love with the school. You know, they fell in love with us, our style. So, you know, I think you got to be honest. I think you got to be upfront. And I think, you know, you got to be realistic with what their opportunity might be. So I think you always got to look at the roster size, whether it be D1, D2, D3. You always got to look at the guys in front of you. But I think, like Chris said, Division II just gets you the opportunity to start a little bit earlier. You know, especially if you're a freshman that comes in right away. So I think there's a lot of great benefits to Division II, Division III, you know, and as well as Division I.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. And we'll get to our next question here for Chris. As a head coach, do you feel college camps are the best recruiting source for getting noticed? And what else would you recommend?
I mean, this question comes up a lot between like showcases and camps and games. I mean, I think at every level, like every coach probably across the country is going to tell you a showcase is great, college camps are great, because you're getting the chance to kind of meet the kid as an individual. And that's a huge part to being, you know, in this recruiting process, to making the final decision. But at the end of the day, no decision is going to be made on a showcase or a college camp. It's always going to be game, you know, basically a game-related thing. We always want to see these guys fail. We always want to see them succeed. You know, you kind of just want to see, and again, depending on the position, you want to see how they handle certain situations. Pitchers, you know, after a bad call, how do they handle it? You know, an infielder after an error, what do you do? After a strikeout, you know, as a batter in a big spot, what happens? So those are the things for me. And then obviously for me, honestly, and I've said this to a million kids, if you don't hustle from step one for me, you're not going to make it. You be the best player in the state. And I really don't care. I don't have any time for, you know, hustle's the easiest thing you can do, right? Yeah. It takes no talent to hustle, right? If you can't hustle, then it tells me you really won't work hard. And when we were there getting ready to push you, you know, what are you going to give us back? So to me, hustle's huge. And if you don't do it, again, written right off. But, you know, games to me were where we kind of said, this is the guy we want, you know, and a lot of times guys laughed at us, like, what are you taking that kid for? And, you know, I think at the end of the day, we made some better decisions than bad decisions. So,
yeah. No, I couldn't agree more with that. And like you said, I think like people like, oh, like I just go to the college camp and I should be fine, right? I don't think people understand it's not like a one-time thing. It's an investment where you really have to, you know, put yourself out there a bunch of times and get face-to-face with these guys. It's almost like a job interview, right? You don't get the job, but you still keep in touch with these guys and stuff like that. Because, you know, you can go to Diamond Nation one time and then go back to the camp and say, hey, I remember this guy. It's
Right.
good to get that second look at him. So, and then I guess to add on to that question, how important is word of mouth from trusted sources like Murata, myself, the high school guys? I don't think people understand that these high school guys are around them a lot, and these high school guys could vouch, hey, he's a good player, but mentally he might not be a good fit, right? So I'll let you expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, now doing this a long enough time, you certainly know the guys you're going to go to first, and the words that they utter are the ones you're going to kind of, go with. A lot of times, obviously, and again, it's not a disrespectful thing. High school coaches that's their job to try to push kids, but they're not telling us all the time the entire story, and that's something that as a coach, obviously, you don't appreciate because, I mean, again, like any relationship, there's got to be a lot of honesty, a lot of truth, a lot of trust. So right away, there's a strike for me. These guys that now, like Matt, there's a million guys that I've used as resources and references. I know they're not gonna lie. They're gonna shoot me straight because I've done the same thing to them. They know that they're recommending a player that is gonna, fit in our environment. Their guy might need a little bit of a different touch than some others, and it's worked out. I mean, there's been countless times where it's happened. But for me, yeah, a lot of our recruiting now is definitely done more, word of mouth references. It just is. I mean, in the beginning, obviously, there's a lot of videos, emails, high school coaches that, I have the perfect D2 player, and I used to answer back like, I'm not looking for a D2 player. I'm looking for the best baseball player that fits Felician. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not labeling the kid a D2 player. I'm looking, he's a baseball player to me and a prospective athlete, and we want the guy that best fits our situation and our need.
Awesome.
But yeah, definitely, using those trusted resources is huge. I mean, definitely my go-to still.
Awesome. So kids out there, don't change who you are, man, because everybody's watching. So wherever you go, club, high school, you gotta be the same guy and bust it out of the box and do whatever. Maddie, you want to add on to that, or should we get to the next one?
No, you get the next one.
All right, so here we go. Here's a good one. I like this one because I don't know much about this one either. So I'm a parent. How is the scholarship money spread out amongst the program? And does it vary by Division I, Division II, Division III?
Yeah, I mean, to answer the question, the first part of the question, Division I, 11.7 scholarships if you're fully funded. Division II is 9 if you're fully funded. And then obviously Division III, no scholarship money can be offered athletically. Obviously there's academic money, institutional aid. But I think, again, any team that – and any college coach that's had success, you're starting to build on the mound. You're going to build on the mound, and then you're going to kind of work to the middle of your field, your catchers, your shortstop, second base, and then your center fielders, and try to become an athletic group. And again, I think now I'll touch on, how we've kind of done it. And I think the way we did it, instead of trying to always fit a mold and a style that we wanted, we just adapted to the guys that we actually recruited, because those are the guys we're coaching. Those are the guys we're going to play. And I can't change a 7.4 runner into a 6.6 runner overnight, and probably can't even do a period. But, I felt like that's what we did such a great job of, is letting, we adapted to our players and their style as opposed to them adapting to us. And again, I think we had great success. Taking us back to like 2016, I think Matt will definitely say the same, very similar. That team didn't have a lot of great athletes. We really didn't. Bruce Strickland was our leadoff guy, ran probably a 7.260, where most schools probably looking for guys that run 6.5 and better. He just did a great job playing short, learning angles. Matt taught him a little bit about angles and positioning, and he had a strong arm, had a really good baseball IQ. So, he did just a tremendous job, using what we had. And again, us not trying to go out there with a certain, I want this style of player. We were like, we like this kid. He's a grinder. He's a blue-collar guy. We think he's going to fit. And then I think we just adapted to what they were. So if we didn't have a fast team, we were hitting and running more. We're bunting more. And again, we got spoiled. We had some lineups that were just really, really good, especially when Mike Mobb showed up. I think we led the region in hitting 2 years straight. And Mike definitely had a lot to do with that, with some of the stuff he brought to the table, with guys just shortening up with 2 strikes and making more contact. And, I think that's just the way we did it. And it was, worked.
No doubt. And I want to add on to that question, actually. Now, during the season, say you get a certain amount of money, can you get more money based on, I guess, if you start to do better during the season? Say I'm a freshman, right? I get X amount of dollars. I become all conference, all American, and I come back, hey, do you think there's some more money in there to negotiate? Is that something that's also on the table? So
at the end of every year, I used to bring kids in, and I used to say this to every guy. I'm not bringing you here, and we're not going to talk about scholarships like you being a free agent, because if you have a bad year, I can't take it from you. So
Exactly.
what I want to do and to help you is, if you're a good kid, and we're hearing a lot of good things in the classroom around the campus, that you're one of those role model students, then yeah, we're going to sit down and talk about ways to help you, because obviously if I make the burden lessened on your parents and you're going to give us a lot more. And again, I think it worked out great and paid major dividends. But at no one time did we ever bring a kid in who we thought was going to be this special player, had good scholarship money, and things didn't pan out the way we wanted. Could I just say, okay, I'm gonna cut your scholarship because you're not producing for us? I mean,
that's true.
I don't think ethically that's even right. Morally, I wouldn't do it. And I just think the best way to do it again was like, this is what we offered you because we wanted you to get you here. Now we're gonna find a way to help us and help this program win.
So if you're listening, you're a kid out there, take advantage of what you get and be grateful for it. And if the coaches come to you, that's a good thing. But I wouldn't, like you said, I don't think I'd go in there and bark for more money, because like you said, you don't start producing, right? Can they take it away? So I couldn't agree more with that. Maddie, what about you? Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best point that Chris makes is, and I watched him do this for 5 year, 6 year span, was, I wouldn't say he necessarily rewarded players for talent. It was more, character kids, kids that wanted to be a Felician, kids that, might not have the greatest, financial situation, where a lot of other schools might, only do it based off talent. So I think that really speaks volumes about Chris as a person, as a coach. And it's something that we've always believed in, like, we'll take character over talent any day. If those guys are willing to work, if those guys are willing to grind, we'll go to war with those guys all day. But I think the biggest thing that Chris has really done is, he's on the Division I guys. He's recruiting those guys until they tell him, hey, I'm going to afford them. So what Chris has done a really, really good job of is, okay, hey, I'm a freshman and I go play Division I. I want to go down south. And there's a sophomore and a junior in front of me. It might be on the mound, it might be on the, infield or the outfield. But for them, then they're going to end up transferring. And Chris does a really good job of getting a lot of Division I transfers. In his outfield last year, I think he had 2 Rutgers transfers that were starting. So, just to paint the picture of Division I baseball, it is no joke in the Northeast region. And, I think what he's done a really good job of is, like he said, controlling, the different personalities. Like, listen, and he'll tell you, we've had our fair share of Division I guys that are coming in that we're hearing horror stories about, that, after 3 years, we hug that guy after his last game and it's the most emotional moment of your life. So, I think we pride ourselves in not giving up on kids, and, hey, they might veer off course, but, how do we get them back on course? Not, hey, let's bury them. And I think that's something that, he's done and he continues to do. And, it's a big reason why, not only the wins are there, but, the kids are doing well, after college.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So since we already talked about scholarship and all that, it brings us to the final segment, the Murata Moneyball question. Maddie lives for this. You get 2 questions, Maddie. No stumpers here for Chris.
All right.
As long as I don't get distracted,
I'll start with myself here. I think I know what the answer is. So, favorite quality about your 5 year span with Coach Murata, and least favorite quality about your 5 year span with Coach Murata.
Oh man, definitely the favorite quality was Matt's his confidence, his cockiness. That was definitely my favorite, because up until Matt Murata, I think Felician's identity was a little stale, and Matt brought some style and some swag to Felician that we didn't have before, because that's just not really how I played the game. It's not really how I approached the game. Now I'm finding out, obviously, that it's the absolute most important part of this, and it works greatly. God, the off the field for Coach Murata, I think Coach Murata knows those. Miami Matt is definitely one of those reasons I don't miss that guy. I don't miss Miami Matt.
PG, we'll keep it PG.
There was just enough times where, I would set a line with a lot of the players and they would put their toes on the line, and I'd say, okay, you're not going to cross the line. But then Coach Murata had a whole different standard. It was that line, then there was another line, and then maybe it was like the triple jump for Matt Murata. He would jump to every level and then get to the third one and then be like, all right, I'll be back to do room checks or whatever it was that we were doing. He just I think sometimes I felt like I was babysitting my younger brother more than I was mentoring another coach, but he was great. I really enjoyed my time. Have nothing but the utmost respect for Matt Murata, his family, and everything he does. He's a class act.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I couldn't agree more.
Chris, just to kind of paint a better picture for, the kids out there watching, any advice? I know obviously you got signed in pro ball and you got signed out of a Division III school. Would you like to kind of talk about that and a little bit about your road and, how hard was it to get signed out of a Division III?
I mean, again, I kind of got lucky. I grew up in a small town, went to Keyport High School. We had such really tremendous talent in this little town. So I was pretty fortunate to play with a couple guys, a couple left-hand pitchers, Brad Bell and Steve Wheeler, who scouts were around all the time, and luckily, again, I played the game the right way. I remember the guy who signed me, Steve Markovic, used to say, you know the reason why I signed you? And he used to make some crazy jokes, and I can't say it obviously on camera, but clearly I was like, I don't know, I could hit, I could run, I could throw, something probably along those lines. And he said, no, I gave you a chance because you hustled. You were always dirty, and you had a lot of energy. And if a guy struck out, you were like the first guy to walk over to him and like, hey, no big deal. The next guy's going to pick you up. It's not a big thing. Mistakes were made. Like everybody kind of looked towards you. And I was like, really? Me? I didn't think that was me. But, it was a tough road. But, again, I think just like some of the other guys who've done it, if you're a good player and you treat the game the right way and you respect it, the game's going to take care of you. And very fortunate to get the opportunities I've gotten in baseball, and it led me down this road of college coaching, which I never, ever in my mind would have imagined I'd be doing. I definitely thought from a young age, I thought I was going to be a teacher, and that's kind of how I had my mind set, and that was my path to be special ed. And then eventually I started focusing on my master's in speech pathology. But that crazy game of baseball that you fall in love with, kept me around this game. I was blessed and fortunate to get the opportunity to coach a guy who coached me when I was younger, Steve Svensson. And things didn't work out for him at Felician, and they came to me, and then the rest has kind of been history. And I couldn't have written a better script from a guy from a small little town. I'm 5'9". I didn't do anything and everything great. I just did it all to the best of my ability, and I gave everything I got. And, again, I got rewarded. So, I guess really the message always is, keep dreaming, keep fighting, keep playing, and just don't have any doubt. Like, I still live my life today the same way. I'm going to wake up every day smiling, being fortunate, knowing that this is a blessing. And playing this game at any kind of a level is a great thing. The numbers just keep shrinking as you keep going up. And, again, been blessed. All started with my dad, who today happens to be his 66th birthday. So, happy birthday,
all right.
Dad.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to Dad. Had to make sure I give him a quick shout out. He'll be pretty pissed if I didn't. But all started with him, firing balls in the backyard, my twin brother. And he kind of had a little Matt Murata in him, a lot of cockiness. And I just was always quiet and sat back. And, he would challenge me. And, eventually, I don't know. I guess I met the challenge and just had a really, really great time in the game.
That's awesome.
I owe a lot to it.
I mean, that's well said, man. And I don't know about Maddie, but I can speak for myself. I got to give a lot of credit to my parents as well. My dad always wanting to throw the ball and stuff. I think that's important. You look at any professional baseball player, they always take it back to, if not their parents, their grandparents. And that's so important, being at games and making sure you're giving that time to them, for their development. So, I'll leave it with this. The late and great Augie Garrido said, baseball is a metaphor for life. And I think that stands out so much because, listen, not everyone's going to make it, right, but the game teaches you just so much about adversity and teamwork and friendship and loyalty, just all these great things that you can take into life. Because, again, there's so many guys that haven't made it, but there's so many, not just baseball, but athletes that have been successful because of what sports does and how that, you get that early taste of real life as a young kid, right? It's the only sport.
But yeah. Yeah.
100%. So, you know, I couldn't agree more with everything you said. And, I mean, Maddie, I don't know if Maddie has anything else to say, but we really appreciate you giving us the time, and all this feedback really helps, you know, these kids.
I appreciate
and
you
stuff.
guys. Obviously, I think what you guys are doing is great. You know, I've kind of been following this thing since you started, and you know, after seeing the other guests, I was kind of like, what are they doing with putting me on here? There's some guys that are high quality, you know, Corey Mascara and Coach Tatoma and a bunch of other guys. So just honored to obviously get a chance to talk to you guys. I always have a good time, you know, messing around with both of you. And again, have a lot of respect for both what you guys are doing, and continue doing it, because I think the youth out there needs good messages, guys like you that are keeping it real, keeping baseball fun, and not making these conversations all about spin rate and launch angle and all these things. I think that baseball has become that it's just, to me, it's too much. I mean, keep the game simple, right? Just make it simple, make it fun, and all the other things will take care of themselves. But I appreciate you guys for the opportunity, and you know, this was fun.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Chris.
Thanks, guys. Stay safe,
care,
everybody.
man.
All right, man.
We're gonna come down to the Falcon Nation and cheer you on next season.
Always come on out.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you get some little guy gear for the little guy.
No doubt.
All right, be well, brother.